Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Finding Yourself Again, where we focus on hope, healing, and recovery from toxic narcissistic abuse. Ultimate goal is to establish self-love, self-compassion, healthy relationships, and ultimately find yourself. My name is Dontre. I'm a survivor of toxic abuse from a narcissist/borderline. And if you find that these videos are helpful to you, I ask that you subscribe, like, share, and watch any other of my content on my channel. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. So with that being said, let's get to today's video. Alright y'all, so today's video is gonna be about emotional intelligence. I'm gonna be explaining what emotional intelligence is, also known as EQ, not to be confused with IQ. But I'm gonna explain all that. And the reason that I wanted to create this video in particular, right, is because emotional intelligence has been something that has helped me to change my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, emotional intelligence isn't just to be used in like intimate relationships. You know what I mean? Like, this could be used in a range of places, like the workplace, out in public, any other relationship. You know, emotional intelligence is a part, or should be a part, of life. And I think for most people it really is a part of life. They just don't really understand that they're practicing emotional intelligence. Like, for example, like if somebody cuts you off when you in traffic, one person may just shrug it off. The other person may flip them off, cuss them out, roll the window down, start tweaking, But, the person that shrugs it off, they may have not known this, but they just exhibited, like, some emotional intelligence right there. They're like, no, I'm not going to crash out over this dumbass or whoever, whatever the situation may be, right? So it's really about having emotional intelligence in your life and understanding what your emotions are telling you, So I'm going to really delve deep into this and start explaining it. So first off, I'm going to provide y'all with the definition of emotional intelligence, aka EQ, or emotional quotient. Which refers to your ability to understand and manage your emotions and to recognize/influence the emotions of others. It's about being aware of the nuances of feelings, both yours and those around you, and using that awareness to guide your thinking and behavior in productive and empathetic ways. It's not about being over emotional or soft. It's about being smart with your feelings. So that's the definition of emotional intelligence, or emotional quotient, EI, EQ, however you want to call it. So I'm gonna get into the next thing right here. Number 2, EQ is not IQ, right? So IQ is used to predict academic success related to school, education, stuff like that. EQ is a strong predictor of success in relationships, career, and overall life satisfaction. So if you're someone who wants these things in life, you should absolutely know what EQ or EI is. EQ can be developed. So IQ, right, which is like the academic stuff, it's generally considered stable, at a stable point once it's like developed. Obviously, you could still learn more. With knowledge, you can always go further, right? But with EQ, it can be improved over time and with practice. Pretty much like anything in life, But that's the good thing. There's not really like a plateau that you could reach. Like you could just keep going and going and going and going with this. So even when you're at a healthy emotional intelligence level, you can still continue to rise. All right. So number 3, there is the five core components of EQ, or emotional intelligence. And I'm gonna go over these. These are not in order. Um, so the first one is going to be self-awareness, which is knowing your own emotions, strengths, weaknesses, values, and how they affect other people. And being tuned into your emotions in the moment. So like, what are you feeling right now? And actually real understanding what you feel right now, you know? Um, I have a book called Permission to Feel. I don't know the author's name right offhand. And in the book, there's something called ruler. You know, like a ruler stick that you would use in school or something. It's RULER, and it's an acronym. And if all else fails, you can always remember this from this video. Ruler: realize, understand, label, express, and regulate your emotions. Those five. All else fails, just remember ruler. So, and this is an acronym that is good for kids and adults, because everybody knows what a ruler is. Kids know what it is, adults know what it is. And once you kind of know, once you basically got that acronym stuck in your mind, wherever you're at, you can always remember that acronym and break it down. So here are some practice tips for helping you with the self-awareness thing. You can journal your emotions. I know that's what I do a lot of times. You know, sometimes when I feel like journaling how I feel, I'll just start journaling how I feel at the moment. It's not every time I journal, but it's here and there. It's consistent. You can also practice mindfulness. You can seek feedback from trusted family and friends. And there's a couple other things you can do. But, you know, you can do whatever works for you. But at the end of the day, it's got to be something that helps you with your self-awareness. So the next one is going to be self-regulation, which is managing your emotions effectively, controlling impulsive feelings, and adapting to changing circumstances. This is about staying in control even when things get tough or out of hand. So some key points to remember with this one is going to be to pause before reacting. Don't just impulsively do some shit. I know a lot of us are like that. You know, a lot of us just want to impulsively do things. But just take a quick second to just think. Real quick, just think, like, is this going to benefit me or not benefit me? You know, what is the potential outcomes from this action or behavior? You can also work on being adaptable, because sometimes in certain situations you have to adapt. You know what I mean? Like, I've been to jail before, and I had to adapt in that environment, right? There's been plenty of other places I've been at where I've had to adapt. Different workplaces I've worked at where I had to adapt. You know, so it's good to start practicing adaptability. Being flexible, that's another one. And taking responsibility for your own emotions. This is going to be a part that's going to help you with your self-regulation, because in order to self-regulate your emotions, you have to acknowledge them and take responsibility for them, so that makes sense. So some practice tips for this one is going to be deep breathing, reframing negative thoughts. So when a negative thought comes into your head, that's replacing that negative thought with a positive or more optimistic one. Practicing self-soothing techniques, whatever that is for you. For me, that's usually listening to a book, watching some YouTube, lighting a really nice candle, smelling nice colognes, getting nice clothes, exercising, taking a shower. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that are self-soothing, but those are for me, so you're gonna have to come up with some things that are self-soothing for you, that can help you. And creating a stress management plan. I don't think I can express how important it is to create a plan of action, which is basically a preventative plan of what you're going to do when stress hits, because stress is going to hit. It hits all of us in life. Nobody is exempt from stress in life. So you need to have a plan of what you're going to do when stress hits. What does that look like for you? Does that look like maybe taking a break, taking 15 minutes and just sitting down and just meditating? Does that look like taking a warm shower? Does it look like calling somebody? What is the stress plan going to be for you? So you could come up with that. The next one is going to be motivation, right? So this one is about being driven by internal goals and values, having a positive outlook on life, and being resilient in the face of setbacks. It's about your inner drive and optimism. So some of the key points about this motivation one is going to be having a clear sense of your purpose and goals. Even if you don't exactly know what your purpose is, you can at least have some goals and some clear ones. And maybe your goal is to find a purpose. Like whatever your goals are, they should be clear, and you should have steps to achieving them that you're working on daily, little mini steps. Let's see. Your sense of purpose, being optimistic, persistent, being optimistic and persistent despite challenges. So, in life, there's going to be challenges, and you have to be persistent and optimistic. So that means, you have to, if you want success and if you want to have real motivation, you have to be determined and willing, and you have to do, in times of stress, when times are difficult, when you don't want to, so that's what it's about, and being intrinsically motivated. So intrinsically means basically like driven from within, having a strong desire to improve and achieve in your life. Because if you don't have a strong desire to do those things, then you're not going to achieve much, because you don't even have the drive to do so, right? So some practice tips for this motivation one is going to be setting meaningful goals. Whatever that is for you in your life, set meaningful goals. Focusing on your why. Why are you setting these goals? Why are you going down this path? For me, I know why I'm making these videos. I'm making these videos because they're helpful to other people. They're helpful to me. They're therapeutic to me and to others. And it provides other people with the sense of relatability. People can relate to these experiences, and they can learn from this. So I have a very clear reason as to my purpose of making these videos. Then I also have a life outside of these videos, right? So I also have clear-cut goals for other things in my life as well. So that's why I put it as the first right there, is because first of all, you have to have meaningful goals. Focus on your why. Next is going to be some positive self-talk consistently. Instead of telling yourself the things you normally tell yourself positive things on a daily basis if possible, which it is very much possible. It's not hard to even think positive things. You just wake up, oh man, I'm so, I'm grateful for another day. I'm grateful to have all my limbs. I have a brain, that's working and useful to me, so, just having positive self-talk daily can help you to be more motivated. Developing resilience through reframing failures as learning opportunities. So that was kind of a big sentence, but basically that's developing inner strength and resilience through challenging your negative situations in life as learning situations rather than failures. Instead of looking at something as like, oh man, I just failed. This is where you look at things. You change the cognitive part about it, and you start looking at things as, oh, okay, well, that didn't go so well. So what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? What might work differently next time, right? Because that, not only does that help you to stay motivated, but that is what actually provides the breakthrough, like probably 9 out of 10 times in life, is just doing things even if you feel like they're not working. But you also have to have a real good reason, a real good why as to why you're doing what you're doing. Something that makes sense to you, at least. The next one is going to be empathy. So this is about understanding and sharing others' feelings, being able to take their perspective. Some tips on this is going to be, you can active listen. You could exercise active listening. So instead of just talking with people to share your point or for you to talk, this is where you actually buckle down and listen to what they're saying, and try to actually put yourself in their shoes, and see things from their perspective. So paying attention to nonverbal cues, when somebody might be feeling down, and you might not even be paying attention to it. But this is where a good tip, because if you are paying attention to the nonverbals, you can pick up on things, and putting yourself in their shoes, like I just said earlier, like, just having the emotional intelligence and empathy to just put yourself in their shoes. The next one is going to be social skills. So this is building and maintaining positive relationships, communicating directly and clearly, and resolving conflicts. Very important when it comes to emotional intelligence. Having social skills. And I mean, first of all, if you want to really get anywhere in life, you need to learn how to build relationships and maintain them. Like, you need to know how to establish them and build and maintain them over time. Positive relationships, and communicate directly and clearly, and resolve conflicts. That's very important in your life, because if you want to have a healthy life, positive life, you're going to need to know how to do these things. And that's part of social skills, which is a smaller part of the bigger picture, which is emotional intelligence. So the next step, number 4, how to practice and use emotional intelligence. So here are some concrete actionable tips and exercises that you can implement in your daily lives. We talked about some of them. Active listening to others without just wanting to talk. Listen to what they're saying. Identifying and labeling your emotions. What are you feeling exactly? And I'm not talking about just sad, happy, or mad. I'm talking about specifically identify the emotion. Pause before reacting. Before you make an impulsive choice or decision, think. View things from the other's perspective as well, not just from yours. Learn to manage stress in healthy ways, and giving and taking constructive feedback, as long as it's constructive. We all know some people could kind of get out of hand with the constructive feedback, so make sure it's constructive, and if it's constructive and it's coming from a good place, take it in. So the next one, number 5, why emotional intelligence matters in life. I've already kind of went over a couple things, like relationships, building stronger connections, healthy connections, resolving any conflicts that are bound to arise in life, and fostering understanding. Career, it's good for leadership skills, teamwork, navigating workplace dynamics, and handling stress. We all know workplace dynamics can be janky and they could be crazy. I've worked plenty of 9 to 5s before, and I'm tired of it. So the workplace dynamics is probably the biggest reason. And emotional intelligence is going to help you navigate through that. The next one is going to be mental health, managing emotions, reducing stress and anxiety, and increasing your overall well-being, which is like the most important thing here. Your mental health, even more important than your emotional intelligence. So the fact that this plays on your mental health is very important. It just goes to show you how important emotional intelligence is and why you should have it or be working towards it. And personal growth. Self-awareness leads to better decision making and personal development. Your emotional intelligence, your self-awareness, it's gonna lead to better decision making, personal development, and ultimately personal growth. Number 6, emotional intelligence is gained, earned, and learned. EQ isn't fixed. This is something you can actively work on and improve on through consistent effort and practice by using the techniques. Meaning you have to use this. Now that you know about this stuff and you have some techniques, you can go and gain more or whatever works for you. But now that you know what emotional intelligence is, it's your responsibility to put it to work and put it to use and practice it so that you have it moving forward, right? Number 7, if all else fails, remember this. Ruler, RULER, for your emotions. Recognize your emotions. What are you feeling? Understand your emotions. Label your emotions. What exactly are you feeling in specific? In specific, what emotion is it? Is it grief? Is it despair? What is it? Is it anger? What is it? Express your emotion in a healthy way, of course, and then regulate your emotion. It's a 5-piece. You can use these for you to regulate your emotions anytime you catch yourself getting emotionally played with or out of bounds. Knowing these techniques can help you stay free, employed, alive, and much more. I've actually lost a job due to not controlling my emotional intelligence in the past. Yes, I have, and I know many other people that have too. And probably many of you have even have in the past. So it's very important, man. Like it's extremely important. I can't explain. I can't even describe how important it is. Lacking emotional intelligence in hard times has caused me to lose a job. It's caused me to lose relationships with people, burn bridges, and just caused me to look a fool and even get in legal trouble, right? So that's it, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share. Most importantly, subscribe. So that other people can see this content and it can get out there in the world. I'm wishing y'all the most self-love and self-compassion on your journey. I know many of y'all are on your healing journey, so I'm wishing y'all self-love and compassion. And yeah, stay tuned for my next videos. For my next video, I drop videos each day, so look forward to that. And much love to y'all, man. Stay tuned. Peace. Bye.